Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Case Western Reserve University's annual commencement. In the British tradition, a procession for a ceremony such as this commencement may be led by an official bearing a mace or staff, or supervised by a marshal carrying a baton or any other symbol of office. A mace is a symbol of authority, originating in the military tradition and carried by a marshal. In universities, the mace may be of any length and is carried by the university marshal on all ceremonial occasions. The marshal's mace in our university is patterned after the baton carried by the drum major of a Highland pipe band. The Case Western Reserve University mace was presented to the university by President and Mrs. Louis A. Tepfer in May 1979. It is made of walnut with a sterling silver crown embossed with the seal of the university.
No wristbands.
The mace was designed by William Stearns of Potter & Mellon and hand-wrought by Potter & Mellon. The medal worn by the president was the gift of President John S. Millis at the time of the 1967 federation that created Case Western Reserve University.
Yeah, he's right behind ours.
The chain was originally made for a Western University President's Medal and was the gift of students in Adelbert College. The robe worn by President Snyder bears the official colors and seal of the university. Since 2003, this custom regalia has been worn by doctoral and professional graduates. This ceremony includes the garb of participating faculty and students, a colorful relic of medieval scholastic tradition. During the Middle Ages, education was a function of religious organizations. The long gown evolved from the monk's habit and the hood from the cowl that monks wore over their heads. Some legends say the mortarboard has origins in the skull caps worn by churchmen officiating at religious services. Others say the cap resembles a scholar's book and came from Oxford University. The tassel worn on the square of the mortarboard developed from the 15th century, when caps and hats came into fashion. The various gowns and hoods preserve the style of their medieval origin and indicate by color and design the degree and the institution by which the degree was conferred. Black is the basic color for gowns in the United States. The bachelor's gown is distinguished by its long open sleeves, the master's by its closed slitted sleeves, the doctor's by its full sleeves trimmed with bands of velvet. The velvet on a doctor's gown may be black or a color denoting the field in which the degree was conferred. The academic hoods vary in length according to the degree and are lined with the colors of the institution by which the degree was conferred. Hoods of Case Western Reserve University are lined with blue and gray. The yoke of the hood is faced in a color that indicates the field in which the degree was taken. Colors representing doctoral degrees offered at the university are arts and letters, white, philosophy, blue, science, gold or yellow, medicine, green, law, purple, dentistry, lilac, music, pink, fine arts, brown, social services, citron, nursing, apricot, business, drab, engineering, orange. Today's procession is led by University Marshal Robin Dubin, Professor of Economics, President Barbara R. Snyder, and members of the Board of Trustees. The platform party includes our honorary degree recipients and other award winners. The platform party is followed by members of the university faculty and emeriti faculty. The order of the position in the faculty group is determined by the date of the first degree of each faculty member participating in today's ceremony. The banners of the university are modeled after the original heraldic banners, which hang in a massive stone chapel on the university campus. The banners are being carried by senior graduates of Mortarboard, the National Honor Society. The commencement speaker this morning is Dr. David Satcher. Satcher earned his doctorate and medical degrees from the School of Medicine in 1970. He is currently the director of the Satcher Health Leadership Institute and the Center of Excellence on Health Disparities at Morehouse School of Medicine. Since his graduation from Case Western Reserve, he has had a distinguished career in public health, attaining some of the country's highest offices in the field. President Bill Clinton appointed him the 16th Surgeon General, a position he held from 1998 to 2002. During the convocation ceremony, we will award 4 honorary degrees. Dorothy Hummel-Hovorka is a steadfast supporter and champion of education, the arts, and promoting diversity. Hovorka helped guide Case Western Reserve University as a member of the Board of Trustees for nearly 2 decades and was presented the University Medal for her work as co-chair of the Michelson-Morley Centennial Celebration in 1987. Donald C. Johanson, a distinguished scientist and former Case Western Reserve University faculty member, is a tireless advocate for evolutionary biology and human evolution. He and his team discovered and named the famous specimen known as Lucy in the 1970s. Bernice R. Sandler is a major contributor to the development of gender equity in education. She is primarily responsible for the passage of Title IX in 1972, which ended most of the overt gender discriminatory practices and policies in education. William A. Shabas has dedicated his career to the advancement of human rights. He frequently participates in international human rights missions on behalf of non-governmental organizations and is the author of many leading academic studies on international criminal justice, genocide, and capital punishment. Approximately 2,000 candidates will receive diplomas from the university today. Degree candidates from each graduate and professional school are presented to the president in the order in which each school was established in the university. The undergraduate students will be presented last in today's order. Over 100 staff and volunteers, including students from Alpha Phi Omega service fraternity, are assisting during today's ceremony. They are identified by their blue commencement shirts. Ladies and gentlemen, the academic procession. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the academic procession. Ladies and gentlemen, the University Marshal, Robin Dubin.
The 2009 Commencement Convocation Ceremony of Case Western Reserve University is hereby convened. Please stand and remain standing for the playing of the national anthem and for the invocation. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the invocation delivered by Reverend Donald F. King, pastor, Hope Lutheran Church.
Great and gracious God, we call you by many names. And on this day, celebrating so many accomplishments, so much excellence, and such endearing pride, may we call out to you as well in the name we choose. We give you thanks for the many blessings you've given each of us through these last years, the gifts of learning and teaching, pupil and teacher, the gifts of family, love, and support, the anchors in our lives, the gifts of friendship begun here and extending for life. We acknowledge that through our years in this fine university, not all has been fine throughout the world, our nation, or this community. War and rumors of war have accompanied us each step of the way. Natural disasters and our varying abilities to address them have been a present reality. And as so many have worked so hard to receive their degree today, it is into an economic reality best described as uncertain that each of us now takes the next steps. As we now arrive on this day and commence, we don't ask for an easy path, but we do ask that you accompany us. Open up each person's future so that our gifts may be used, the world's needs might be addressed, and each one who seeks a place may find one. In the words of the prayer expressing the life of St. Francis, grant that we so much not seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. O great and gracious God, we indeed call you by many names. We give thanks to you for calling each one of us by name as well. May our lives be a blessing to you. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The president of Case Western Reserve University, Barbara R. Snyder.
Good morning. Let me start by saying congratulations to the class of 2009. Today it is my special pleasure to welcome you and a host of other special guests. First, our honorary degree recipients, Donald C. Johansson, Bernice R. Sandler, and William A. Chavis. Our distinguished award winners, Chairman of the Board of Trustees, Bud Koch, and other trustees of the university, the Honorable Louis Stokes, deans, vice presidents, and other platform participants, our faculty, staff, alumni, and friends. Our graduates did not make the journey to commencement by themselves. If you are a parent, a spouse or partner, a grandparent, a child, other family member or friend of one of our graduates, please stand and receive our gratitude for the support and encouragement you provided to help our graduates reach this special day. I welcome you all to the 2009 commencement of Case Western Reserve University. This commencement is the latest in a rich 183-year tradition dating back to 1826. This year is particularly special in two ways. First, we begin what I hope will be a new tradition. Our Student Sustainability Council, in conjunction with the Undergraduate Student Government and the University Sustainability Office, have worked with the Cleveland Carbon Fund to offset the energy consumed during our ceremony. As a result, this is our first ever carbon neutral commencement. Second, this year marks the first graduation exercises for students in the Cleveland Clinic Lerner College of Medicine of Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine. We are pleased to be part of this innovative educational collaboration specifically aimed at preparing students to be physician scientists who advance both research and clinical care. Today, we are proud to welcome Dr. Toby Cosgrove, the Cleveland Clinic's current CEO and a powerful advocate for this effort, and Dr. Floyd Loop, the former Chief Executive Officer at the Cleveland Clinic and its leader when the program came into being. Thank you both for joining us. Joining the School of Medicine at its exercises later today will be Norma Lerner, who with her late husband Al, gave a gift to the Cleveland Clinic that allowed the clinic and our School of Medicine to realize the creation of the Lerner College program. The students participating in this inaugural class have compiled an impressive collection of achievements, including articles, book chapters, and more. And like all the graduates at our School of Medicine, in March, they matched at some of the most prestigious residency programs in the nation. Of course, whether you are graduating from a new program or one that dates back more than a century, each of you has traveled a unique path to reach this day. I extend my best wishes to all of you who are graduating today. We are extraordinarily proud of you and your accomplishments. We are also grateful for the contributions you have made to our campus and to one another during your time at Case Western Reserve. So along with my congratulations, let me also add my thanks. Now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce a man who, like many of you, is experiencing his first commencement at Case Western Reserve University. Bud Bazelak became our provost and executive vice president last fall. He's an exemplary leader, one full of energy, commitment, and a deep sense of integrity. Like you, he worked extraordinarily hard to reach this moment, and today he has the pleasure of recognizing your accomplishments, a great reward indeed. He will start by introducing the recipient of this year's Frank and Dorothy Hummel-Havorka Prize. Please join me in welcoming Provost Bud Bazelak.
Thank you, Madam President, faculty, students, and families and friends. The commencement program includes brief biographies of all of today's award winners. The Frank and Dorothy Hummel Havorka Prize is awarded annually to a faculty member whose exceptional achievements in teaching, research, and scholarly service have benefited the community, the nation, and the world. The prize was created by Mrs. Havorka, a longtime friend, honorary trustee of the university, and 2009 honorary degree recipient. Her husband, the late Frank Havorka, was for many years a distinguished member of the faculty of the Department of Chemistry. This year, the Havorka Prize winner is from the Case School of Engineering. Madam President, on behalf of the Havorka Prize Committee, I present Hunter Peckham, Donnell Institute Professor of Biomedical Engineering.
Hunter Peckham, you offer the... Hunter Peckham, you offer the gift of movement to people whose limbs have been stilled by injury and disease. Your passion and ingenuity have fueled one discovery after another, starting with your time as a graduate student here in the 1960s and continuing to this day. Your innovations allow paralyzed individuals to perform simple tasks like grasping a coffee cup or a pencil, and memorable ones like walking down the aisle to be married. For 4 decades, you have combined your keen technical expertise with boundless compassion. You have not only helped patients directly, but you have created the partnerships and collaborations that engage many others in this cause. Established in 1991, the Cleveland Functional Electrical Stimulation Center involves Case Western Reserve, Metro Health, and the Louis Stokes VA Medical Centers in a model interdisciplinary partnership, including physicians, engineers, physical and occupational therapists, and more. Along the way, you have inspired and mentored dozens of graduate students and junior faculty members, served on multiple campus and federal committees, and demonstrated your commitment to this university in ways too numerous to count. Hunter Peckham, I confer upon you the Frank and Dorothy Hummel Havorka Prize for 2009 in recognition of your many important contributions to Case Western Reserve University, to our community, to the nation, and the world. The President's Award for Visionary Achievement recognizes individuals who have distinguished themselves through significant and exceptional support to Case Western Reserve. Recipients of this award demonstrate a history of prominent philanthropic support to the university, humanity, and the world. Iris S. Wolstein has dedicated much of her life to making a positive difference for others. Her generosity reaches from Israel to Ohio and involves support of such organizations as United Cerebral Palsy, the American Red Cross, and the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. She and her late husband, Bart, also recognized the critical importance of higher education to advancing society and made significant donations both to Ohio State and Cleveland State universities. Our campus has benefited repeatedly from the philanthropic spirit of Iris and her late husband. They endowed a professorship in management design at the Weatherhead School of Management and also provided the funds to renovate Wolstein Hall. Last year, Iris granted our wish to make Wolstein Hall the home of undergraduate admissions, effectively making the building the front door of Case Western Reserve. Iris having admissions in this beautiful setting has made an enormous impact on our staff and the families they welcome. Our applications climbed significantly this year, and Wolstein Hall played an important role in that growth. The couple's single largest contribution to Case Western Reserve can be seen in the soaring 6-story structure on Cornell Road, the Iris S. and Bart L. Wolstein Research Building. Here, researchers from the School of Medicine investigate disease, develop treatments, and quite literally save lives. Iris, for all you have done for Case Western Reserve University, our community, and the world, it is my honor to present you with the President's Award for Visionary Achievement.
Madam President, on behalf of the Honorary Degree Committee of the Case Western Reserve University faculty, it is my distinct honor to present candidates for the degrees honoris causa. In a private ceremony that took place earlier this semester, Dorothy Hummel-Havorka was presented as a candidate for the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters honoris causa.
In January, I visited Dorothy Hummel-Havorka to present this honorary degree during a private ceremony in her home. Her contributions and example are nothing short of inspiring, and I would like to take a moment to share some of them with you. Mrs. Havorka is a gifted pianist who gave 6 solo performances with the Cleveland Orchestra. She went on to become one of the Musical Arts Association's greatest advocates, serving on its board, providing philanthropic support, and tirelessly leading fundraising efforts. Mrs. Havorka also served as a trustee for the Cleveland Music School Settlement, the Cleveland Institute of Music, and University Circle Incorporated. A graduate of Shaker Heights High School and a member of its Hall of Fame, she established the Dorothy Hummel-Havorka Award for the African American student with the highest grade point average in his or her junior year. Mrs. Havorka's contributions to the university are legion. A member of the Board of Trustees for nearly 2 decades, she received the University Medal for her leadership of the Michelson-Morley Centennial Celebration, a 6-month observation that included dozens of symposia and exhibitions and lectures by nearly 20 Nobel laureates. For her passionate contributions to higher education and on the recommendations of the university faculty and vote of the Board of Trustees, it was my pleasure to admit Dorothy Hummel-Havorka to the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters honoris causa with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto.
Madam President, on behalf of the Honorary Degree Committee of the University faculty, I present Donald C. Johansen as a candidate for the degree Doctor of Science honoris causa. A physical anthropologist, Professor Johansen is perhaps best known for the 1974 discovery of Lucy, a 3.2 million-year-old skeleton in Hadar, Ethiopia. What you may not know is that he was a curator at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History at the time and also taught on this very campus. In the years since this remarkable find, Professor Johansen has gone on to write 6 books, including Lucy, The Beginning of Humankind, which won the 1981 American Book Award in Science. He also hosted an Emmy-nominated series entitled In Search of Human Origins. Today, Dr. Johansen is a director of the Institute for Human Origins at Arizona State University.
Donald Johansen, for research that has changed the way we understand ourselves, and on the recommendation of the university faculty and vote of the Board of Trustees, it is my pleasure to admit you to the degree of Doctor of Science honoris causa with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto, to bestow upon you the hood of this university and to grant you this diploma.
Madam President, on behalf of the Honorary Degree Committee of the University faculty, I present Bernice Sadler as the candidate for the degree Doctor of Humane Letters honoris causa. The New York Times once described Bernice Sadler as the godmother of Title IX. Her journey to become one of the leading voices for equal rights for women in education began in the late 1960s, when a colleague told her that she had been turned down for a tenure-track job because she came on too strong for a woman. Ultimately, Sadler discovered a single footnote in the law about a federal contract that prohibited discrimination based on gender, and a movement began. She and a small band of like-minded individuals filed hundreds of complaints, compiled reams of data, and ultimately worked with members of Congress to pass Title IX in 1972. At the time, she thought the law would address the issues within a year. More than 4 decades later, she is still helping individuals and communities understand both the letter and the spirit of the legislation. She has given thousands of presentations and indeed served as a great resource to Case Western Reserve University and its NSF ACES project.
Bernice Sandler, for your passionate commitment to equality, your ability to bring about meaningful change, and on the recommendation of the university faculty and vote of the Board of Trustees, it is my pleasure to admit you to the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa, with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto, to bestow upon you the hood of this university, and to grant you the diploma. Congratulations.
Madam President, on behalf of the Honorary Degree Committee of the University faculty, I present William A. Shabas as a candidate for the degree Doctor of Laws honoris causa. This morning represents a homecoming for Professor Shabas. While he grew up in Canada, he was born right here in Cleveland, Ohio, specifically across the street at University Hospitals. This is just one more example of what a great start you can get from this community. Today, Professor Shabas is director of the Irish Centre for Human Rights at the National University of Ireland in Galway, where he also holds a professorship in human rights law. He is the author of 18 monographs involving international human rights law and more than 200 articles related to international human rights and criminal law. He has participated in human rights missions on behalf of Amnesty International and the International Federation of Human Rights, and has consulted with multiple governments on related issues. From 2002 to 2004, Professor Shabas served as one of the 3 commissioners to Sierra Leone's Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
William Shabas, for your scholarship and service in the cause of human rights, and on the recommendation of the university faculty and vote of the Board of Trustees, it is my pleasure to admit you to the degree of Doctor of Laws honoris causa, with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto, to bestow upon you the hood of this university, and to grant you the diploma. It is now my pleasure to introduce our commencement speaker, a national leader in public health and a 2-time graduate of Case Western Reserve University. Dr. David Satcher earned his doctoral and medical degrees here in 1970 and was elected to the Alpha Omega Alpha Honor Society. He went on to serve as a faculty member at the Morehouse School of Medicine and UCLA, and became president of the Meharry Medical College from 1982 to 1993. In 1990, Dr. Satcher received an honorary Doctor of Science degree from Case Western Reserve University. Dr. Satcher went on to direct the Centers for Disease Control from 1993 to 1998, when President Bill Clinton named him the United States 16th Surgeon General. As Surgeon General, he dramatically advanced awareness of tobacco use among ethnic and minority groups, and the need to be more proactive in educating young people about responsible sexual behavior. His work to address racial and ethnic disparities in health helped influence the nation's Healthy People 2010 initiative. Today, Dr. Satcher serves as director of the Satcher Health Leadership Institute and holds the Poussaint Satcher Cosby Chair in Mental Health at the Morehouse School of Medicine. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. David Satcher back to his alma mater and present him as the 2009 commencement speaker.
Thank you. Thank you very much, President Snyder, for that very kind introduction to distinguished provosts and deans, other administrators, members of the faculty and students and staff, to the Board of Trustees and fellow trustee emerita, fellow alumni, and to all of you distinguished people. I'm delighted to be here and delighted to be able to join you on this very special occasion. I especially want to greet the class of 2009 and to join in congratulating you for the tremendous commitment and effort that brings you to this day. I also want to commend those who supported you, your parents and grandparents and other family members. So it's a great day. I never tire of commencements. There's an excitement that is unique to commencements, and I feel that excitement with you today. I do want to especially recognize a person who has been a great supporter of mine and my career throughout the years, and that's your Congressman, Louis Stokes. Thank you. Now, I guess since I have my degree and my honorary degree, I can admit that I did cut some classes while I was a student here. I cut classes first to work in his campaign, his first campaign back in 1967, 68. And during the years that he served in Congress, and whenever I needed something from him, I would remind him of that I cut classes. And you would have thought that he would have gotten tired of me, but he always greeted me with that same great smile and was one of the foremost leaders in the history of the Congress of the United States. Please join me in giving him. Thank you. Now, I know you're here today, as I said, because of the hard work and efforts of a lot of people, but also the dreams of a lot of people. Some ancestors whom you may never have met had dreams that have a lot to do with your being here today. But you also had your own dreams, and I guess my first message to you today is that this is no time to stop dreaming. Without dreams, it's very hard to continue to move forward. The poet Langston Hughes said, "Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is like a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams go, life is like a frozen land covered with snow." So hold fast to dreams, continue to dream as you leave this place, as you aim high. I want to speak briefly about the bridges of our lives, and I know that we have some outstanding commencement speakers here today whom you will hear later, so I want to make sure that they have time to address you. But I do want to say a word about the important bridges of our lives. And of course, you know how important bridges can be. There are some outstanding bridges in our history. There's the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, the Verrazano Bridge in New York, perhaps the largest suspended bridge. There's the Chesapeake Bay Bridge in Virginia. And in New Orleans during the hurricane, bridges played a very important role. And when those twin bridges along the Pontchartrain gave way, it was a big problem for a lot of people. So there are also bridges that help us in life to get from one place to the other. And there are some messages about bridges that I hope you will not forget as you leave here today. And that first message, of course, is don't forget the bridges that brought you here. There have been important bridges in life, certainly your parents and family and sometimes spouses and maybe even children that have played a major role in your being here today. Don't forget the bridges that brought you to this place. That's the first message. Second message is make sure that you take the right bridge out of here to the rest of your life. And then finally, take seriously your responsibility to build bridges for others. Take seriously that responsibility. Now, I'm here today, and my CV doesn't cover the fact that there have been important bridges in my life. I had great parents. Neither of them finished elementary school, but they were passionate about the education of their children. They had a deep faith and a deep commitment to the education of their children. I'm really pleased that some of my relatives are here today. I'm from a family of 10. My mother was from a family of 17, my father of 13, so I have a lot of relatives. But I always get excited when I see them. These are bridges in our lives that we cannot not forget. The teachers who taught us, and I grew up in a time in Alabama when schools were segregated, and we dealt with hand-me-down books, but I had teachers who taught us as if their very freedom depended upon it. And if it were not for their commitments, I certainly wouldn't be here today. And I'm sure you've had teachers like that. So we can't forget these very important bridges in our lives. Remember the bridges of your life. Case Western Reserve University, it's been an important bridge in my life. It was a long journey from the cotton fields of Alabama to this institution in 1963. And yet, when I left here, I was armed not only with academic preparation, but with confidence. I remember when the press greeted me as the new director of the CDC in 1993. Their first question was, Dr. Satcher, how does it feel to be the first African-American director of the CDC? I thought about that, and then I said, well, you know, it feels great because you will never be able to ask anybody else that question again. But I also said, you know, my goal is not to be the first African-American to be director of the CDC. I've accomplished that. My goal is to be the best director that the CDC has ever had. And that was my goal, and that's what I worked toward. 4.5 years later, President Clinton asked me to serve not only as Surgeon General, but the Assistant Secretary for Health. And in that role, as you know, I was able to contribute in a lot of ways to issue the first ever Surgeon General's report on mental health, the first ever Surgeon General's report on oral health, the first ever Surgeon General's report on overweight and obesity. That's really started a major effort now for us to reverse what is not only an epidemic, but a pandemic of overweight and obesity. So the bridges are important. Well, it's also important for you today, as you get ready to leave this great institution, to take the right bridges out of here. It's important that this is a critical decision, that you take the right bridges, make good use of what you have learned to this point. So often in life, there's a gap between what we know and what we do. And you're challenged to have the discipline and the wisdom and the commitment to make the best of what you know. Now, my favorite story about that is a story about a man in a hot air balloon who was traveling across the country, and at a certain point, he realized that he was lost. He had no idea where he was, so he decided that he would lower the balloon to see if he could spot some recognizable landmarks. So he lowered the balloon, and he didn't see anything that he recognized, so he kept lowering it. And it was only after he got to about 30 feet above ground that he spotted something. There seemed to have been a man working in the field below. So he yelled out, "Where am I?" And the man stopped digging, and he looked up, and he said, "Well, you're in a hot air balloon about 30 feet above ground." Well, the man in the balloon said, you must be a scientist. Do you work in science? You sound like a scientist. And the man said, "My goodness, I am a scientist, but how in the world did you know that?" And the man in the balloon said, "I knew that because what you've told me is technically correct, but it is of absolutely no use to me right now." Well, not to be outdone, the man on the ground said, "Well, you sound like one of those policymakers from Washington or somewhere." And the man in the balloon said, "My goodness, I'm a leading policymaker, but how could you have known that?" And the man on the ground said, "I knew that because you're in the same position you were when we met. You don't know where you are, you don't know where you're going, and now you're blaming me." Well, let me say that whatever your field of endeavor, the challenge to connect what we know and what we do is a serious challenge. Kay Redfield Jamison wrote about that challenge in her book, Night Falls Fast, about teenagers committing suicide. She challenged our mental health system, our healthcare system, to become more fair and more aggressive. That was a major recommendation in the first report that I issued on mental health. It was that this nation move to comprehensive parity of access to mental health services. Now, I have to tell you, we finally did it, but it took 10 years, and hidden in that bailout legislation, if you go look for it, is the Mental Health Parity Act. And hopefully we will implement it. So be sure to take the right bridges out of here. Some bridges are important to take, or some bridges are important to leave behind. I think it was James Russell who said that one of the most difficult lessons in life to learn is which bridges to cross and which bridges to burn. There are some bridges that you want to burn. I mean, if somehow you got involved in drugs somewhere along the way, it's time to burn that bridge. If you dealt with sex as if it were a game, it's time to burn that bridge. If you were dishonest as you pursued your classes, it's time to burn that bridge. This country needs leaders of integrity. Integrity is critical to our future. We need to know that the people who are preparing food for our children are people of integrity, and they will not compromise in order to make money. We need to know that the people who are heading major corporations in this country, where many people have their lifetime savings invested, we need to know that those leaders are people of integrity who put the plight of their corporation and the people who trust them first. We need people of integrity leading this country. We need global leaders who put the safety and peace of people above war. We need leaders of integrity. So there are some bridges that you should cross and other bridges to burn. The last lesson is the need for bridge builders. As you know, the people who helped to bring you to this point were bridge builders in many cases. This institution, you've heard about some of the bridge builders that bring this institution to the point where we are today and continue to build this institution. We need more bridge builders. One of my favorite poems is the poem by Will Allen Drumgoole. It's called Bridge Builder. It says, an old man going along a highway came at the evening, cold and gray, to a chasm vast and wide, through which was flowing a sullen tide. The old man crossed in the twilight dim. The sullen stream had no fears for him, but he turned when safe on the other side and built a bridge to span the tide. Old man, said a fellow pilgrim near, you're wasting your time and strength with building here. Your journey will end with the ending day. You never again will pass this way. You've crossed the chasm deep and wide. Why build you the bridge at evening tide? And this is what he said. He lifted his whole old gray head. Good friend, in the path I've come, he said, there followed after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way. This chasm that has been naught for me, to that fair-haired youth, may at pitfall be. He too must cross in the twilight dim. Good friend, I'm building this bridge for him. Each of us has that responsibility to build bridges, to take what we have gained, what we have learned, and to build bridges for others. The nation needs more bridge builders. We need bridge builders in education that will see that all of our children receive quality education and are motivated toward education. We need education to keep children out of the criminal justice system. We need to stop dumping our future resources into the criminal justice system. We need a criminal justice system which rehabilitates as opposed to developing people who go back and prey on communities. We need leadership in criminal justice. And of course, I don't have to tell you that we need an economy that serves the people, that motivates people for quality work, that rewards quality work, and that keeps us as a nation not only competitive, but a leader. We need a global community where people are working for peace. We need better health and better health care. Now, I have to end with this because this has been my career. We are now struggling with health system reform, and I carefully say health system reform, not health care reform. You see, health is not just about health care. In fact, access to quality health care accounts for about 15% of the variation in health outcome. Environment accounts for about 25%, genetics maybe 20%, behavior 40 to 50%. So we need a health system that incentivizes healthy behavior. We need to start early helping our children to become habituated to physical activity and good nutrition. No longer can we feel comfortable saying we cannot afford physical education K through 12. No longer can we addict our children to salt, sweets, and fats, and then complain about the rise in diabetes and cardiovascular disease and cancer. We need a health system. And this may be our best chance. I'm very optimistic about the leadership toward health system reform that we're seeing in the White House and the Congress. I've testified before a committee in the House, and Friday, the committee in the Senate on nutrition. I believe there's a serious commitment to health system reform. So we have to continue to work for that. Well, nobody said it was going to be easy. It has certainly not been easy for me. But I want to close by encouraging you to stay the course. When I was a student at Morehouse College, and there were other students there like myself who had come from backgrounds that had been punishing in many ways, but Morehouse College was determined to convince us that we were special, that we were supposed to be leaders. So every day except Saturday, we had to go to chapel. I mean, they really tried hard. So on Tuesday, the president, Benjamin Mays, would actually come to chapel and speak to the students. And I want to give you a flavor. I have a lot of Benjamin Mays quotes, but I close with this one. Benjamin Mays said, "It must be borne in mind that the great tragedy of life is not in failing to reach all your goals. It's in having no goals for which you are reaching. It's not a calamity to die with dreams unfulfilled, but it is a calamity not to dream. It's not a disaster if somehow you fail to achieve your highest ideals, but it's a disaster if you have no high ideals for which you're striving. It's not a disgrace to fail to reach the stars, but it's a disgrace to have no stars for which you're reaching." In the final analysis, he said, and I say to you today, not failure, but low aim is sin. So as you leave here today, do not be guilty of low aim. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Satcher, for your words today and for your pioneering work. We are grateful for the impact you have made on our university and across the nation.
The deans of the schools and colleges will now present candidates for degrees to be conferred today. Also to be presented are graduates whose degrees were officially conferred in August and January and who have returned to participate in today's ceremony. Dean Pamela Davis will present candidates from the School of Medicine.
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the School of Medicine candidates for the degree of Doctor of Medicine, including the inaugural class from the Cleveland Clinic Lerner College of Medicine of Case Western Reserve University.
Will these candidates please rise?
By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates the degree of Doctor of Medicine and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated. Dean Norman Tien will present candidates from the Case School of Engineering.
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the Case School of Engineering candidates for the degree of Master of Engineering.
Will these candidates please rise?
No, you have to stay standing. If you're getting the Master of Engineering, don't sit down yet. By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates the degree of Master of Engineering and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated. Dean Charles Rozek will present candidates from the School of Graduate Studies.
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the School of Graduate Studies candidates for the degrees of Master of Arts, Master of Fine Arts, Master of Public Health, Master of Science, or Master of Science in the field of engineering.
Will these candidates please rise?
By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates the degree of Master of Arts, Master of Fine Arts, Master of Public Health, Master of Science, or Master of Science in the fields of engineering, and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated.
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the School of Graduate Studies candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy.
Will these candidates please rise?
By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated. Interim Dean Robert Rawson will present candidates from the Franklin Thomas Backus School of Law.
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the Franklin Thomas Backus School of Law candidates for the degrees of Juris Doctor or Master of Laws.
Will these candidates please rise?
By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates the degree of Juris Doctor or Master of Laws and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated. Dean Gerald Goldberg will present candidates from the School of Dental Medicine.
Madam President, I have the honor to present from the School of Dental Medicine candidates for the degree of Doctor of Dental Medicine.
Will these candidates please rise?
By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates the degree of Doctor of Dental Medicine and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated. Dean Grover Cleveland Gilmore will present candidates from the Mandel School of Applied Social Sciences.
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the Mandel School of Applied Social Sciences candidates for the degree of Master of Science in Social Administration or Master of Nonprofit Organizations.
Will these candidates please rise?
By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates the degrees of Master of Science in Social Administration or Master of Nonprofit Organizations and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated. Dean May Weichel will present candidates from the Francis Payne Bolton School of Nursing.
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the Francis Payne Bolton School of Nursing candidates for the degree of Master of Science in Nursing or Doctor of Nursing Practice.
Will these candidates please rise?
By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates the degree of Master of Science in Nursing or Doctor of Nursing Practice and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated. Dean Mohan Reddy will present candidates from the Weatherhead School of Management.
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the Weatherhead School of Management candidates for the degree of Executive Doctor of Management, Master of Accountancy, Master of Business Administration, Master of Science in Management, Master of Science in Positive Organization Development and Change, or Master of Engineering Management.
Will these candidates please rise?
By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates the degree of Executive Doctor of Management, Master of Accountancy, Master of Business Administration, Master of Science in Management, Master of Science in Positive Organization Development and Change, or Master of Engineering and Management, and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated. The undergraduate candidates from the Weatherhead School of Management, the Francis Payne Bolton School of Nursing, the Case School of Engineering, and the College of Arts and Sciences will be presented by Deans Mohan Reddy, May Weichel, Norman Tien, and Cyrus Taylor, respectively.
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting for the Weatherhead School of Management candidates for the degrees of Bachelor of Science in Accounting and the Bachelor of Science in Management.
Will these candidates please rise and remain standing?
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the Francis Payne Bolton School of Nursing candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Science in Nursing.
Will these candidates please rise and remain standing?
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the Case School of Engineering candidates for the Bachelor of Science in Computer Science and the Bachelor of Science in Engineering.
Will these candidates please rise and remain standing?
Madam President, I have the honor of presenting from the College of Arts and Sciences candidates for the degrees of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science as described in the program.
Will these candidates please rise and remain standing?
These candidates, having met all requirements of their course of study, have been certified to the Board of Trustees as earning the degree Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science as described in the program. By order of the Board of Trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I now confer upon these candidates their degrees and admit them to the honors, rights, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto.
Please be seated.
In recognition of the degrees just conferred, diplomas and the appropriate hoods will be presented by each dean at a separate school or college diploma ceremony following this convocation. Graduates, I have just one more thing to say to you. Congratulations. Now, of course, you are alumni, and it is my pleasure to introduce Nancy Fink, President of the Alumni Association of Case Western Reserve University and a 1973 graduate of Western Reserve College. Nancy is an active alumni leader and a great friend of the university, and she will provide the official welcome from the Alumni Association.
Thank you, Madam President. Let me add my personal congratulations to all of you on your accomplishments. When I graduated from this fine university a number of years ago, I was warmly welcomed into the alumni family, and I am pleased to extend that welcome to you all today. You are all now officially lifetime members of the Alumni Association of Case Western Reserve University, a group of outstanding people that number in excess of 100,000. It is your association, and I'm here to tell you that it will help you in your professional and personal development no matter where you go after you graduate. Alumni events are held throughout the country. They're also held in Cleveland. They're held in Washington, D.C., Houston, and around the world, and in Tokyo, to name just a few places. Your Alumni Association needs your participation in order to pass on our rich history and traditions to future generations of students. Because the entire university community is eager to celebrate your future achievements, please stay connected and involved. Last but not least, I would like to invite you to return to campus on a regular basis, and when you do, I would invite you to visit your alumni house, your home away from home. Again, congratulations. We all wish you the very best.
Please rise and join us in the singing of the Alma Mater, which can be found on page 6 of your program. Our Alma Mater will be led by our singer, Alana Seeley. This concludes our convocation. Our marshals will now lead the graduate and professional schools to their next locations, which are listed on page 4 of your commencement program. Undergraduate candidates will remain seated, and our undergraduate diploma ceremony will follow shortly. Guests should be seated. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated until the graduate and professional schools leave the Veale Center. The undergraduate diploma ceremony will begin at 11 a.m.